A group of kids playing off of Amherst Street in Granby, Massachusetts, found a woman's body on November 15, 1978, buried under a pile of leaves. Investigators were able to determine that she had been fatally shot in the temple. There was also evidence that the woman's body was dragged by a man's belt. It was estimated that her life was taken roughly 3 months before her body was found in August 1978. Investigators were unfortunately unable to identify the woman, so for decades she became known as a grandma's girl and was buried in a local cemetery with a headstone marked unknown on March 6, 2023. The office held a news conference at the Granny police station to announce the major breakthrough in the case. It was announced that the remains found back in 1978 belonged to 28-year-old Patricia Tucker. She was born on July 28, 1950. First Assistant District Attorney Stephen G. said advances in DNA technology allowed them to find Patricia's half-sister in Maryland, who led them to her son. He was just 5 years old when Patricia vanished. Stephen Gagne said that while it is satisfying to finally know who the Granby girl actually was, the investigation will not stop until we identify the person who took her life and bring the family an additional measure of closure and justice. This investigation has spanned decades and will continue until each and every possible lead is explored. Stephen G. said Patricia was married to Gerald Coleman, and they were living on the shore of Lake Pecog in East Hampton, Connecticut, back in 1978. Coleman never reported his wife missing. He passed away in prison in Massachusetts in 1996, according to Stephen Gaynor. Coleman is now a person of interest in Patricia's case. Patricia had earlier gone by her married name, Patricia Heckman, Patricia Dale, and later Patricia Coleman, at the time of her disappearance. Anyone with information about the case should call Granby Police at 413-467-9222 or email jwhite@pd.org. Patricia's son, Matthew Dale, who is now 50 years old, also spoke and recalled his last memories of his mother. She was in the front seat of a stranger's car wearing a vest. It was 1978. Matthew was in the back seat on Nubby Upholstery. A man he did not know was driving, but Matthew vividly recalls the last words his mother ever said to him before she disappeared. "She told me to go across the street to the playground." Matthew said, referring to a group home for juveniles, "She said goodbye." Now in middle age, Matthew's memories are fuzzy. The facility was outside Boston. His father collected him the following day and raised him after his mother left him. Matthew has lived in North Carolina most of his life. He grew up dogged by the mystery of his mother's disappearance. Rumors swirled among family members, including speculation that Patricia may have entered the Federal Witness Protection Program. Matthew said that he was in his 30s when he accepted that his mother was no longer alive. "My mother fell in with the wrong crowd. She was not a hiker like some of the stories said. Through the years, I've been told so many lies about it." His father passed away in 2015, and Dale has felt somewhat of adrift, although he is happily married, is a father, and has been a union electrician. For most of his life, several weeks before the identification was made, police showed up at his door. They asked him a few questions, explaining that they found him through his uncle in a DNA database. They said, "Grandma girl." I thought, what is a Ramby girl? Matthew said state police investigators did not offer many details, but said they had exhumed Patricia's body. Matthew had filed his DNA in a database in case his mother was ever identified. He sent investigators a file of his digital DNA profile, and they contacted him by phone within hours. He said it was a clear genetic match. He has scant keepsakes of his mom, a single photo baby book she created for him, a lock of his hair, and a small tapestry she painted when he was small. Matthew said he plans to arrange for a proper grave for his mother for years. The grave has been marked only with a wooden cross since 1998. Gry residents donated money to create a more dignified marker. Matthew said it was an awful end. "What I want to do is have a new gravestone made for her. She deserves to have her name on it." Amanda Gonzalez came into this world on December 8, 1981, born to Santos Gonzalez and Gloria Bates. Her early years were marked by the separation of her parents, a situation clouded in mystery. In due course, Gloria remarried a man named Michael Bates, who would step into the role of a father figure for Amanda when she was just 4 years old. Michael, hailing from Madisonville, Texas, watched Amanda grow into a popular girl with a heart of gold. Known for her kindness and her unwavering stand against bullies on behalf of her classmates, Amanda graduated from Madisonville High School in the year 2000. A turning point came when, after her high school graduation, Amanda surprised her family with a life-altering decision. She arrived home with a recruiter, announcing her intention to enlist in the U.S. Army. Her dream was to become a physical therapist for children, and she saw the Army as a means to save up for college. Amanda's family supported her decision, though little did they know the heart-wrenching consequences that lay ahead. With her family's blessings, Amanda embarked on a path that would take her to places she had never imagined. It was the year 2001, and at the age of 19, she found herself stationed in Hanau, Germany. Assigned the role of a cook, Amanda worked diligently, but she also made it a point to explore the cultural wonders of the country in her spare time. She marveled at majestic castles and got lost in the enchanting city of Paris. Europe held countless experiences for her. Several months into her service, Amanda made an unexpected call to her mother back in Texas. The news she delivered was filled with excitement. She was pregnant and eagerly looking forward to the new chapter in her life. Amanda planned to name her baby Alicia Marie, with an estimated delivery date of March 26, 2002. However, the identity of the unborn child's father remained a mystery, one that persists to this day. Amanda's life seemed to be on an upswing. She had a promising future ahead. But fate had a cruel twist in store. On November 5, 2001, a day that began like any other in Hanover, Germany, Amanda inexplicably vanished. Her absence raised alarm among her fellow soldiers, and a search was launched. They arrived at her barracks, only to find her room locked. Fearful of the worst, they forced their way in and discovered Amanda's lifeless body on the floor. Panic engulfed them as they desperately tried to revive her, but their efforts were in vain. The news of Amanda's death spread rapidly, sending shockwaves through the Army base. The autopsy report revealed the grim truth. Amanda had been strangled to death. This devastating news reverberated all the way to Texas, leaving Amanda's loved ones with a multitude of unanswered questions. Why would anyone want to harm Amanda? An investigation was launched, but despite the dedicated efforts of the authorities, the case went cold. There were no leads, no suspects, and no justice for Amanda. It was a heartbreaking end to a life that had held so much promise. Despite the investigation into her daughter's murder stalling for several years, Gloria, Amanda's mother, never lost faith in justice. She spent years reaching out to lawmakers, and even wrote to popular TV shows like Dr. Phil and America's Most Wanted, all in an effort to keep Amanda's case in the public eye. Gloria's unwavering determination extended to her visits to Amanda's grave, where she often spoke to her deceased daughter, vowing to keep fighting. In 2011, a ray of hope emerged when Army investigators offered a reward of $125,000 for any information that could help solve the case. However, still, no breakthrough came. Gloria received weekly updates from investigators, each containing the same disheartening news: no suspects had been identified. Finally, after 22 years of waiting, perseverance paid off. On February 23, 2023, an FBI agent informed Gloria that there had been a breakthrough in the case and that an arrest had been made. This day marked a significant step closer to the justice Amanda deserved. The individual taken into custody was Shannon L. Wilkerson, a 42-year-old former armed forces member. The arrest was the result of a collaborative effort between the FBI Jacksonville Office of Special Investigations, and the Army Criminal Investigation Division. Wilkerson was charged under the Military Extraterrestrial Jurisdiction Act, which grants U.S. courts jurisdiction over former members of the armed forces for crimes committed overseas. The exact details of how investigators linked Wilkerson to the murder and what his possible motive might have been remain unclear. Nevertheless, he pleaded not guilty to the first-degree murder charge against him, and if convicted, he could face life imprisonment. Interestingly, it came to light that Wilkerson had even attended a memorial service for Amanda at the Army base in Germany after her death. The future remains uncertain, but for Gloria and her family, the arrest of Amanda's alleged killer provides a sense of justice and closure that they've been yearning for over 2 decades. On a cold and eerie night, as the clock struck midnight on November 21, 2002, the small town of Spanaway, Washington, became the backdrop for a chilling discovery that would haunt both the community and law enforcement for years to come. In the desolate 15600 block of 74th Avenue East, a lifeless body lay motionless, stripped of all clothing. It was a scene that sent shivers down the spines of the police officers who rushed to the location, their veins filled with tension and uncertainty. The tension in the air was palpable as the officers arrived at the scene, not knowing what to expect. The sight that greeted them was beyond their worst nightmares. The woman's life had met a gruesome and inexplicable end, leaving them with a bone-chilling question that would drive their investigation. Who was she, and what dark circumstances had led to her demise? Despite the initial shock and the absence of immediate clues, the detectives were resolute in their determination to uncover the truth. They meticulously combed every inch of the surrounding area, searching for any shred of evidence that could provide them with the answers they so desperately sought. However, the scene remained eerily silent, offering no hints as to the sinister events that had unfolded there. One peculiar detail that struck the investigators was the absence of any visible marks or signs of violence on the victim's body. This observation led them to believe that the woman had likely met her fate elsewhere and had been unceremoniously dumped on the side of the road. As the woman's lifeless form was carefully transported away from the grim scene, the detectives stood in stoic silence, their faces etched with fierce determination. Their minds raced with thoughts of the arduous investigation that lay ahead as they plotted their next moves. It was a solemn vow they made to themselves and the memory of the victim. They would not rest until every stone had been turned, every lead had been followed, and the elusive culprit brought to justice. The subsequent autopsy conducted on the woman would reveal a horrifying truth. She had been strangled to death. But the Pierce County Medical Examiner's Office was not content with just this revelation. Recognizing the critical importance of every possible clue in solving a case of this magnitude, they took a DNA sample from the victim's body. Furthermore, through the careful examination of fingerprints, the Pierce County Medical Examiner's Office was able to identify the woman. Her name was Sharon Van Gilder, a 39-year-old devoted mother of 2 children and a beloved member of her community. Sharon had grown up in Enumclaw, surrounded by several siblings, but little was known about her early life. Those who had the privilege of knowing her described Sharon as a kind and caring person, always willing to lend a helping hand to those in need. Her tragic and inexplicable death left a profound void in the lives of all who had known her. The shock of her passing rippled through her community, leaving her friends and neighbors in disbelief. As the investigation into Sharon's death unfolded, detectives were met with more questions than answers. However, they were determined to crack the case and provide Sharon's grieving family with the justice they so rightfully deserved. As they delved deeper into their investigation, they uncovered a crucial piece of information. Sharon had been last seen leaving a bar in Tacoma with a man named Miguel Angel Urbano Vasquez. This discovery immediately placed Miguel under the intense scrutiny of law enforcement, making him a prime suspect in the case. The authorities launched an all-out effort to locate and apprehend him. Simultaneously, the Washington State Patrol Crime Lab worked tirelessly to gather additional evidence, including DNA samples taken from the crime scene. These samples were destined to play a pivotal role in the unfolding drama. However, capturing Miguel proved to be a daunting task, and he managed to evade the authorities, escaping to Mexico just as they were closing in on him. Despite their best efforts, detectives were unable to track him down. As time passed, the investigation ran dry and the case went cold, leaving Sharon's loved ones with heavy hearts and no closure. Meanwhile, Miguel continued to live his life freely, seemingly oblivious to the relentless pursuit of justice that was never going to give up on finding him. But the story was far from over. In 2012, A glimmer of hope emerged for the investigators when the Pierce County Sheriff's Department established a cold case unit. A dedicated and determined detective named Tim Cobble took over Sharon's murder case. Tim threw himself into the investigation with unwavering resolve, determined to solve the mystery that had remained unsolved for years. During his painstaking probing, Detective Tim made a shocking discovery. It was a revelation that sent shockwaves through the Tacoma community. A series of crimes had occurred around the same time as Sharon's murder, and the same man was connected to all of them: Miguel. Astonishingly, the Tacoma detectives who had been working on those cases had no idea about Miguel's connection to Sharon's murder. This critical oversight had resulted in a missed opportunity to submit DNA evidence from the crime lab for comparison to its database. Detective Tim felt like he had finally found the missing puzzle piece, and he wasted no time. He sent the DNA samples from Sharon's murder, as well as those from the other two crimes, for testing. The results that finally arrived in late April 2012 confirmed what he had suspected all along. Miguel was the perpetrator behind all three heinous crimes. But the investigation didn't stop there. Months later, detectives were able to link Miguel to yet another crime that had occurred in October 2002. The victim recounted a harrowing tale of being lured into a car with two individuals who initially offered her drugs. However, when she refused their proposition of exchanging money for sexual acts, they turned violent, resorting to physical force. DNA samples taken from this crime scene matched those found at the two earlier crimes and in Sharon's murder. It was a breakthrough moment that investigators had been tirelessly working towards for years. After a long and arduous journey filled with twists and turns, they had finally gathered enough evidence to charge Miguel with the murder of Sharon Van Gilder, as well as the other crimes that had terrorized Tacoma. With charges filed by the Pierce County Prosecutor's Office and a warrant issued for Miguel's arrest, the detectives faced another formidable challenge. They had no idea where Miguel was hiding in Mexico. The search for the fugitive suspect became intense and challenging, but the detectives refused to give up. Their eyes remained peeled, their ears to the ground, and their determination unwavering. As days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years, the detectives were on the brink of losing hope. But then, in 2019, a glimmer of hope emerged when the FBI informed them of Miguel's whereabouts. Determined to see him face justice, the detectives sprang into action, embarking on the lengthy process of securing the necessary paperwork to extradite him to the United States. The extradition process was long and arduous, filled with bureaucratic hurdles and legal intricacies. However, the detectives refused to yield, driven by their unwavering commitment to justice. Finally, after 4 years of tenacious struggle, the necessary paperwork was processed. Working in collaboration with Mexican authorities, the FBI executed Miguel's arrest on March 14, 2023, bringing an end to his years on the run. Miguel's capture marked a significant turning point in the long and arduous journey for justice that had begun over 2 decades earlier. At this moment, detectives continue to work tirelessly to finalize Miguel's extradition to Washington, where he will stand trial for his heinous crimes. His arrest has brought a renewed sense of hope and closure to Sharon's family and friends, who had endured years of anguish, uncertainty, and heartache. In conclusion, the tragic story of Sharon Van Gilder's murder is a testament to the relentless determination of law enforcement, forensic experts, and detectives who refuse to give up in their pursuit of justice. The case serves as a reminder that even the most elusive criminals cannot evade the long arm of the law indefinitely, and that perseverance and dedication can ultimately bring closure to those who have suffered the most profound loss.